Imagine a morning. You wake up, reach for your phone to check your email or news, and nothing. No Wi-Fi, no mobile internet. You think, okay, something's wrong with the provider. But the same thing is happening to your neighbor, in another city, on another continent. Every country on the planet is cut off from the World Wide Web. What if the internet was turned off worldwide for a whole month? How would our world change? The first few hours would be pure chaos. Global financial markets would stop instantly. Banks would no longer be able to process transactions, and stock markets would crash. Billions of dollars and euros would turn into numbers trapped within the depths of servers. Trade worldwide would come to a halt. No online shopping, no app payments. Attempts to send a message or call through messengers would be useless. Millions of people around the world would lose contact with their loved ones, colleagues, and friends. Emergency services would still be working, but many of the systems they depend on would start to fail. GPS navigation would shut down, forcing truck drivers and taxi drivers to pull out old paper maps. By the end of the first week, we would be living in a completely different reality. The economy would be in a deep crisis. Companies wouldn't be able to manage supplies, order goods, or communicate with partners. All international logistics, based on automated systems, would break down. Cargo ships and airplanes would no longer receive up-to-date route information. Email, cloud storage, all of it would be gone. Billions of documents and data would become inaccessible. But this isn't just about money and logistics. It's about us. Social media would disappear. Why leave the house if you can see everything on Instagram? Now, we would be forced to look for news in newspapers that are still being printed and get information from the radio or television. People would start communicating face to face. Families, long accustomed to living in separate rooms with gadgets, would gather together again. Maybe the world would become a little slower, but much more real. By the end of the month, the world would have developed its own survival mechanisms. Companies would return to old methods, faxes, paper documents, in-person meetings. Finance would switch to cash payments. We would see a resurgence of outdated professions, for example, landline technicians. Governments would establish special communication channels for emergency messages and coordination. Science would also suffer. Researchers would no longer be able to exchange data, and projects requiring international collaboration would be frozen. Education would return to an offline format. Schools and universities would once again become centers of information, not just places for online conferences. We would realize how fragile our digital civilization island. Many people would develop skills that seemed lost. The ability to navigate without a map, memorize phone numbers, and write letters. Humanity would adapt, but at what cost? And so, after a month, the internet would start to return, slowly at first, then faster. The world would sigh with relief. Millions of messages and emails that were waiting in the digital traffic jam would begin to be delivered. Financial systems would gradually recover. But it wouldn't be the same world it was a month ago. We would have learned a lesson from it. We would realize that our dependence on technology has a downside. And, perhaps, we would start to value not only speed, but also connection itself, both digital and, more importantly, human. So, if the internet disappeared for a month, it would undoubtedly be a catastrophe. But it would also be an opportunity to reevaluate our values, to find ourselves in the real world, to understand that we can still communicate, create, and live even without the World Wide Web. What do you think? How dependent are you on the internet? And how would you spend that month?